question I want to make sure we get to, because I think it's a profound question, from Alex in Washington. He says, the last couple of weeks have made it very clear that back to normal as a message isn't good enough. As a teenager in America, for me, he writes, for me, normal means things like school shootings and police brutality and the erosion of our democracy. I wasn't even alive for Columbine or Rodney King or Bush v. Gore. There is no shining past that I can return to. My question for both of you is, what does this new normal look like? What do you think we absolutely have to get right before it's too late? And that's very much the question of the hour in so many ways, I think. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Jaime.
Yeah. Well, Alex, thank you for that question. And thank you for your leadership. I mean, you're already a leader as a teenager, and I appreciate that, because I need you to lead and help take care of my boys. So thank you for stepping up. Let me just say this about normal, right? Normal for Black folks is painful, right? Because the normal for me, when I get up in the morning, when I go to bed at night, is thinking about, is today the day? Is today the day that I get pulled over by a police officer? Is today the day that I hear from a relative that they have been murdered, or I hear from relatives that a friend has been murdered or harmed in some way? Is today the day that I'm going to be discriminated against, or is my wife going to be discriminated against? You know, the life of, it's so funny that when I think back to it, you know, it's one of those things where I've been in pain my entire life. As long as I've known that I've been Black, there's been a pain that has been passed by generation and generations of Black folks. My grandma, when I was a little kid, my grandma would often tell me stories about her childhood. And she would tell me about times that she would huddle, her mom would huddle them all in the room because the KKK was marching through their town with torches. I remember as a kid I loved history. And so reading about the Constitution and reading that Black folks, people who looked like me, were 3/4 of a person. You know, the pain of learning about Emmett Till for the first time and actually seeing an image of this boy whose round head reminded me of my own. Or hearing about the Orangeburg Massacre, where college kids on their campus, just protesting for equality, were shot, killed in cold blood by members of the police force here in South Carolina. That is part of the pain that Black folks, Black communities have carried for generations upon generations upon generations. And it was this moment, because we've had all of these situations, from the Mother Emanuel situation, when my good friend lost his life, Clemente Pinckney, to the Walter Scott who got shot in the back by the police officers. But this moment with George Floyd, I think it was the straw that broke the camel's back for the Black community in this country, because they were just tired of the pain. We had been living with the pain. It had been so persistent that we just lived with it. But I don't think people are willing to live with it anymore. So things have to change. The normal has to be thrown away and be rebuilt from the start. And so there's so much that we have to do, from how we reform policing in this country to how we make sure that there's equity and fairness in housing and banking and all aspects of life in America. Black folks aren't asking for more than anybody else. They're just asking that those words of Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence, that all men and women are created equal, actually mean something. That it's just not beautiful prose, but actually means something. And that's what we need. That's what we need. So when we say Black Lives Matter, that's what we mean. It's not that other people's lives don't matter. We're just saying we matter too. We matter too. And we want it to be treated just like everybody else. We want to make sure that the hopes and dreams of our kids are just like yours. Some folks told me that the greatest myth that they have, they hate when they have to tell their kids about Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny and how it robs their innocence. Well, think about being a Black parent, and you have to tell your kid about the possibility that they could be killed or hurt just because of the color of their skin. That's the type of innocence that we have to rob our kids of. And it's not right, it's not fair, and we're not going to tolerate it anymore.
So well said, so powerful, and thank you for speaking in such a clear and personal and candid way to what has to change. It's there's not much I can add to that. It's a reminder of how there's no going back to the old normal. Whether we're talking about the eruption of anguish in response to the killing of George Floyd and so many killings, whether we're talking about the way that a pandemic, a virus, has exposed and exploited the inequalities and the discrimination that are so woven into the life of this country. This is now an issue of such urgency that we can't go on, literally can't go on as a country until we confront it and do it in a real way. And while some of this has been years or even centuries in the making, this is one of those moments, one of those fork in the road moments where our country is going to decide, as Alex says, before it's too late, to actually confront systemic racism, to actually hear that pain and decide that an America that cannot meet that utterly reasonable demand of an equal life and lives being valued equally is not an America. America that can't do that is not one we want to live in, and not one we're willing to go back to. And if we can't face that and address that, then all the other issues we've got to contend with before it's too late, like climate change, like LGBTQ equality, like education, like moving our country. How can we possibly do that if we can't even establish that this is a country that values Black lives equally? This is a test of what our country is made of. And I'll say, I'll end where I began. I think everybody who just heard Jaime speak understands why when I'm looking for optimism, when I'm looking to be buoyed, it's seeing the kinds of leaders we could have. Of course, it would be a good day in America to remove Lindsey Graham for the United States Senate. But we're not just talking about going from negative to neutral. Think about the voice you just heard, the passion and the intelligence that you just saw speaking on the floor of the United States Senate, and what that would mean for our country. That's giving me hope, even in this tough moment. So I thank you, Jaime, for the stand that you're taking, for the race that you're running. I think you earned a whole bunch of new supporters and friends this evening, and I know that our Win the Era community is going to be there at your side to make sure that we have cause to celebrate in November and then get down to work.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you for being in my corner. It means a whole lot, and I really appreciate you, Pete. And the country needs your leadership. So thank you for not standing in the corner and getting back on the field. I really appreciate that.
We're here to help, and I'm excited to do it. Thank you.
Thank
Keep
you.
at it.
Thank you, my friend. Take care, everybody, and be safe.
Thanks, everybody, for joining. Take care.